Tonight, all clear for the Electoral Commission to continue with the Ablekuma rerun as an Accra High Court dismisses NPP parliamentary candidate Nana Ekuafriye's move to stop the EC from going ahead with a planned rerun in 48 hours. We have details as the opposition New Patriotic Party remain undeterred, insisting they have won the elections and will not go for the seats.
Election that we have won, and we will prove to the good people of Ghana that we have won the elections, and whatever is happening together with the Electoral Commission, I believe that the NDC should be explaining that.
What's your next line of action?
You wait when our next action is ready. We will make it publicized for you.
So that's the NPP saying it will not let go of that particular seat because they believe they won. But tonight, the big question is, what will a win and I think a 2/3 majority mean for the NDC, who need just a seat to whip up the numbers? Isaac Kofieje joins me later for that particular analysis here on Top Story. Well, tonight, Accra High Court has given all clear for the Electoral Commission to continue with planned rerun of elections at 19 polling stations in the Ablekuma North constituency. The New Patriotic Party at a news conference on Tuesday announced their decision to boycott the July 11 election, citing the Electoral Commission for violation of electoral regulations and contempt of court. The parliamentary candidate who filed that case on Monday was in court today and with another lawsuit asking the court to place an injunction on the planned rerun and compel the EC to, for the second time, not only go back and finish with a collation, but also respect the court's own directive of January 4, 2025. But the court presided over by Justice Ali Baba Abutere disagreed and dismissed the case. Legal Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins us live with some details. And this, Kweku, you were in court. Give us the breakdown of what the court's decision was.
This was an ex parte application, which means that the Electoral Commission and the other interested party, the NDC, were not on notice. This was just Nana Ekuafriye and her lawyers going to court insisting that because of the very urgent nature of the matter, the Electoral Commission should be stopped from proceeding to actually organize that rerun in 19 polling stations in Ablekuma North. That is what exactly the judge said. Gary Nimaku made the point forcefully that the judgment that was given by another high court in January of this year was to the effect that the Electoral Commission should proceed to conclude the collation of results in Ablekuma North as well as other constituencies that were involved in this matter, and that the decision by the Electoral Commission to actually go ahead and organize fresh election in those 19 polling stations were a clear breach of the orders of the court at the time, and the Electoral Commission did not have the power to do so. The judge, Justice Ali Baba Abutere, ruled that this argument that the NPP's candidate and her lawyers have put forth in court were unmeritorious.
Unfortunately, we'll raise Kweku Asante there again, but and get some more reactions on this surely. First, General Secretary of the NPP, Justin Kodua Frimpong, has been given some more justification on why they decided to boycott the election on Friday. And this same election is the one the NPP's candidate for Ablekuma North wanted to stop, but the court disagreed. Kweku, you were making a point when the line tripped.
Well, yes, I was making the point that the judge, after listening to the argument of Gary Nimaku to the effect that the Electoral Commission was in breach of the High Court order for the EC to conclude the collation of results in Ablekuma North by deciding to hold fresh election in 19 polling stations. The judge said that the argument was unmeritorious. When he quotes, he says, after careful and painstaking reading of the applicant's motion paper, affidavit in support, statement of case as filed, as well as the supplementary affidavit, the application for injunction against the respondent, that is EC, is dismissed as unmeritorious. That is Justice Abutere ruling. The substance of the argument of the judge is to the effect that when you balance the convenience, the Electoral Commission is the body that has been given the power to organize election. And if they so decide that they are going to hold election, then they must do it. And if ultimately the substantive action that has been filed by the NPP parliamentary candidate were to succeed, damages will suffice to actually satisfy whatever damage she would have suffered in this regard, Brace.
So does that mean that this does not have any correlation whatsoever or any sort of impact on the case they filed on Monday? Hello, Kweku.
Hello.
I wanted to understand whether this case has any impact on the case they filed on Monday. Okay, but the General Secretary of the NPP, Justin Kodua-Frimpong, has been speaking on this, and he says one of the primary reasons they have is the EC's inability to keep their word to finish the coalition process, and that they simply cannot trust the EC in this instance. Listen to him.
I'll go back to the pronouncement by the court on January 4th, 2025. The court made an explicit pronouncement that EC, we are giving you an order of mandamus. Go and collate the outstanding police stations and declare the results. The court never said, go and do a rerun. So there's a difference between go and collate and go and do a rerun. So
but if that's the case, the EC should be in contempt of court.
Exactly, that's the point.
But why are you not in court making the case?
That is the point.
So why are you not
that
in court
making the point I'm driving at.
No, but why are you not in
and
court
that
making
is why
the
we are in court.
But you're not in court making a contempt of court argument.
But do you know do you know the details of our rate?
At least from what I've read, it's first of all an interlocutory injunction.
Yes, so
to stop the EC
so
from proceeding.
do you know other strategies that we have put in place?
You tell me.
So I'm telling you, we are in court, and the EC has been cited for contempt. The EC has been cited for contempt of court because the directive from the court was explicit. Go, collate, and declare. And you cannot vary the order of the court. Even if in any case you had even legitimate concerns that the directive that the court has given is unenforceable, the only remedy is to go back to the court to get a further directive or a varied directive. It does not lie on the EC to conduct elections and after elections sit in the office and say that for convenience sake, but based on their own extensive investigation or knowledge, we are going to do a rerun. And that will be a bad precedent for this country. There's a reason why the EC's work is to conduct elections. But anything that departs from after conducting elections, which involves even rerun everything, it is only the court of competent jurisdiction that can give that directive. It does not lie so much on the EC to decide that we are going to do a rerun. And that is why the party is citing the EC for contempt.
But, I mean, that's the General Secretary of the NPP, Justin Kodua-Frimpong. But how prepared are the constituents themselves ahead of Friday's election in these 19 polling stations in Ablekuma North? James Aveji has been engaging some of them.
Say court decide say omo to aba na yesiro mu yina so omo kono omo to aba no mu MP na mputu nkoso e wa Ablekuma North because ebasa youth no enya adwuma anye bu youth na ntim basa MP ni ho a youth no enya adwuma anye ti yesiro omo esire mpanyifo omo da no say omo te omo ase na omo to aba ba ye yempe ye basa yo ntokwako Ghana ye pe kro ye yempe basa yo nti de yesire ma yempanyifo no.
So what's your name?
Frederick.
Frederick has his vote somewhere in the Western North region, but he is here. He thinks that the voting should come on, but it must be a peaceful exercise, which at the end of the day must bring an MP to the constituency. Let me speak to just two more people to hear their views, then we leave it. What do you also think? Do you vote here?
Yeah, I vote here.
You vote here?
Yeah.
Oh, which of the polling stations?
Kwashiman. At Anglican School.
Anglican School.
Yeah.
Is your polling station also part of those who do the rerun?
Yeah.
So you're also going to vote on Friday?
Yeah.
What do you make out of the process so far?
Oh, you see, we are all looking up to the Electoral Commission. She is the referee, or that body is the referee. Oh. So whatever they will come up with will follow. So I'll go and vote.
Okay. So Friday you are going to vote?
Yes, of course.
The NPP has pulled out of the race. What do you make out of that?
You see, NPP MPs have been in this constituency for so long, and they have pulled out. It's up to them because we have North. There's no improvement here. So we are going to vote for another party to come, another MP, different MP to come.
Do I get the indication that you are going to vote for the NDC candidate?
Yes, of course.
That's what you are going to vote
because we want change. Because I've been in this constituency for more than 20 years. Okay. You look at go around this constituency. There's no improvement. Our roads are bad. Everything doesn't seem well with those who are in Ablekuma. So I'll go and vote for NDC. We want change. Not necessarily that I'm NDC, but we want change.
But were you surprised to hear that the NPP had decided to pull out?
Yeah, I know.
Were you surprised?
Oh, I'm not surprised because they won't get it. So I'm not surprised.
You think that even if they had stayed and partake in the election, they wouldn't have won?
Yeah, no, yes, I know they won't want the election. That's why they have pulled out from the election.
Okay.
So it's a good time now to bring in people who matter to this particular debate. And this is Top Story, brought to you always by Telecel Connect and Energies. Let me bring in Dr. John Osai-Kwapong. He is a Democracy and Development Fellow at CDD Ghana. Doc, I'm grateful to you for joining us. Now, if you look at all that is happening, the NPP has withdrawn from this particular rerun. The EC says, I'm still going ahead. What does that, what impact does that have on the election and on the EC itself?
Thank you very much. So my concern with the EC has been the shifting narrative of one from we are unable to recollate and declare a winner because of security issues and therefore we impress upon the Ghana police to help us, to then coming to the point where now we need to rerun a number of polling stations. In principle, I can understand why if those 19 outstanding police stations, as determined by the EC, does have an impact on the overall outcome of the election in Ablekuma North, then you want to protect the integrity of the ballot and ensure that every voter's vote counts. I'm just a little, again, unclear as to how it was no longer a security issue, but rather rerunning some of these polling stations and how the EC made that determination. So that places the EC in a bit of a challenging position where, issues of trust and confidence in that institution keeps popping up again. It was the right thing for the NPP to do to go to court and say, well, there was a court ruling prior that said recollate and declare a winner. And so it was only proper for the NPP to go back to the court to say the court ruling in this case has not been followed through, and that this is the decision that has been made by the EC. Now, if the NPP decides they won't, they've indicated that they won't participate in the election on Friday, which for me does not augur well for the integrity of the ballot, but it is also their prerogative to decide which election they want to participate in or not. But hopefully sooner rather than later, there would be some kind of an acceptable resolution to both sides that are contesting this seat in terms of who won and who didn't win.
And that does that include that a resolution for the NPP to say we now want to contest in Friday's election? From what I understand, the court has ruled on the case that the NPP took. If
that if the ruling stands and if the party decides that they won't further appeal the ruling, then at this point the choice they have to make is whether they want to participate in the election or not. But it is up to them to decide on the next line of action. My concern is that should they decide to boycott it and the election proceeds, they would always question the legitimacy. But for that one, I think there is a limit to which you can question the legitimacy in an election that you voluntarily and willingly decided not to participate in because of disagreement with the EC.
You aren't a lawyer, but let me pass this through you and see. Now, the court's ruling today that the EC can still go ahead. Is that not a deviation from the court's ruling on January 4 that go and conclude coalition?
It sounds like it. I mean, I haven't seen the ruling itself, or at least the summary judgment of what the court is thinking. But I'm also wondering if in the court's judgment that it is deferring to the administrative discretion of the EC as the institution charged with organizing elections and sort of protecting that power that the EC has, that says, look, this is the institution. We have said that all matters of elections is up to this institution. So I'm wondering if that is what is informing
to be fair, that was
giving them the go ahead to do it.
To be fair, that was a stance by the court that yes, the EC is the one mandated to do that, so it can go ahead. But if your substantive matter that was filed on Monday succeeds, then of course there will be some punitive measures that will come along with. So that is what the court believed. It if you look at where we are now, the NPP says I won't be part of this, but the EC is still going ahead. Does it really take away anything from that particular election?
I mean, when you have one of your major political parties boycotting an election, it's not the best of scenarios. But at the same time, it's up to them. Do you see what I'm saying? So that shouldn't, for me, then cast too much of, or shouldn't underpin too much the legitimacy of the election, because they freely chose not to participate. It's a bit of a tricky, dicey situation. I would hope that the EC would have been able to work with the political parties to come to some amicable solution, But at this point, it looks like the EC is going to go ahead and assert its constitutional powers of organizing elections, and it's essentially saying to the political parties, we are going to move ahead. You can be part or you can choose not to be part.
All right. I'm grateful to you. Dr. John Osai Kwapong is Democracy and Development Fellow, CDD Ghana. Let me bring in now the two political parties. Haruna Mohammed is Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, and Mustafa Gbande is also Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Let me start with you, Haruna Mohammed. Now, if you listen to the people we spoke to from Ablekuma North, those 19 police stations, they say that, of course, you know you will lose, and that's why you're running away.
Kojo, thank you very much. I would say good evening to your cherished listeners, and good evening to the other panelists on this particular program. Election is election. You can predict to win. You will never predict to lose an election. Opinions are opinions. Everybody is entitled to his or her opinion. I cannot attack their opinion, but I can only prove my point to disagree with their opinion. And I disagree that we would lose. That is why we are not going. We have stated clearly the circumstances and the inconsistencies that has made us to arrive at this particular conclusions. And on that basis, we still stand on our own principle, not to compromise ourselves in going for any rerun of an election that we have won.
But if you strongly believe you have won, and these are the same people who voted for your candidate, what changes if you put yourself up to be part of this process?
It will serve as a bad precedent and open the Pandora box for people who believe in hooliganism, people who believe in taking the law into their own hands, will perpetuate such injustice in the future in anticipation that a body called Electoral Commission will kowtow to their whims and caprices to rerun a won election in an election year.
So what's next for the NPP after the court threw out your injunction application today?
What you would forget is that we didn't go to the court for only an injunction. We went to the court with a substantive matter, but we sought to injunct the elections. The court says allow them. When the substantive matter is done and you are able to sail through, there will be remedies that will be offered. It is left with us as a party to choose whether we go and still pursue or we pursue the case. We have chosen to pursue the case in court, and we believe that justice grinds slowly, but justice will definitely be delivered.
So you believe that after Friday's election, you still have the hope of turning this particular election in your favor?
We are on a legal path, and we will exhaust all the legal path or legal avenues that is available to us.
What will you do if after Friday your candidate comes out the winner? What will you do? Will you still pursue the case?
We will still be pursuing the case in court.
Okay, let me bring in Mustafa Bandira. Mustafa, so here we are, an election where your fiercest competitor NPP will not be part. Does it still have the same feel?
To himself, my brother, and then CDD Ghana. Look, the NPP is not our competitor in this election. They are participants of the election and have, chosen to paint a picture as if they have withdrawn from the election. They are in the election because on the ballot paper, their candidate is still there. I am daring the NPP to write to EC and officially inform the EC that they are withdrawing from the election. The election will still go on. We withdrew from education. The election went on. It didn't affect the legitimacy and credibility of the election. The NPP know that when they were given power for 8 years, Ablekuma North, which is one of their constituencies, they have failed to develop the place. They didn't spare Ablekuma North of their fraudulency and deception. They underdeveloped the place. When President Akufo-Addo was taking internet and ATFA to his village in Chebi, he forgot that Ablekuma North was one of their strongholds. Today, each time you gave the NPP the opportunity to participate in public discourse, they lose votes because they lack the credibility and moral integrity to contest or to participate in any election. In fact, in their own NPP, they are not well organized. They are dismantled. Today they are scattered. They are divided. They are not ready for any election. And I dare say, what President Akufo-Addo and his people have done to this country cannot be forgotten just within 8 months or 7 months. It is still on the conscience of Ghanaians that the NPP's 8 years was a national fraud. For that matter, the suffering of the Ghanaian people is still fresh. It can be forgiven, and the NPP will be paid for it. They also know that their candidate cannot win this election. If they get an opportunity, they will have changed a candidate.
But the same candidate is the one they believe has won this election. So how do you convince them that their candidate cannot win the election?
Well, one of the constituencies they tried to use illegal means to snatch was Ablekuma North. We stood our grounds. You see, now we are talking about court order. The court order, CDD, go and read the court order. The court order was not instructing the EC to go and declare results and through illegal means. the court asked the Electoral Commission to go and complete the processes of collation and declaration of results.
Yeah.
If the Electoral Commission does not have materially verified evidence on which basis they are going to declare results, should they manufacture a new law in the TI 127 and declare results?
But the same Electoral Commission said it is only left with 3 outstanding polling stations. Why are you not questioning that?
The inconsistencies are fundamental to our position that the current setup of the Electoral Commission is not fit for purpose. The NPP can let us pause the election, change the Electoral Commission and go and have the election. It is also another way. But as we stand, it underscores the fact that the inconsistencies just validates our claim that Jim Mensah have not been professional. The current setup does not embody and reflect, trust of the ordinary Ghanaian. They are not able. They have not been able. They have infractions throughout the electioneering organization, and that if Ghana want to have a chaos-free, a trusted electioneering process in this country, Jim Mensah and her entire commission must leave. They must go away and leave the commission.
I'm grateful. Mustafa Agbande is Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Earlier you had Haruna Mohammed, who is Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. But what does a win in Ablekuma North mean for the NDC in Parliament? Isaac Ofieje is our lead research analyst here. Isaac, I mean, that will give them an absolute 2/3 majority, right?
Absolutely, and that number has to be around 184 members of Parliament. Currently, as it stands now, NDC has 183, with NPP 187 because of the demise of the Akwetia MP. 4 members of Parliament. I mean, Akwetia, if you take away Akwetia, which possibly will go to a by-election, 187. We'll hope to see what that election will also bring. But currently, outstanding will be 2, Ablekuma North, and a by-election when Parliament, actually say that that seat becomes vacant. But if NDC is able to win Ablekuma North, that will bring their parliamentary, magnitude to 184, which will give them super majority without any form of support from either the independent candidates or maybe any other parliamentary, parliamentarian. But they need 184 to have that super majority.
Okay, and if that goes through, what does it mean for parliamentary business then?
A lot of things that they can actually do with that absolute majority, especially looking at the selection of MMDCs. We understand the president says that this could be the last time that we will have such a process. If they are able to have 184, they can change that process, and we could go for, an election of MMDC, possibly not based on partisan levels.
Let's see if the NDC will have that absolute 2/3 in Parliament. This has been Top Story, brought to you by Telecel Connect and Energies. Up next is Newsnight.